The lullaby she never learned. The bioluminescent panels had been dimmed to their lowest setting. Someone's attempt at night. Moran noticed the stars first through the viewport, then the child, then the woman who hadn't moved from that throne chair in what looked like days. He was supposed to drop the supply crate at the service door. That was the job. The door had been left open and the crate was heavy, and he'd only meant to set it just inside. But then he saw the girl, 3 years old, pale blue, impossibly small against the medical bed, too still for a child, the kind of still that had a sound to it, a held breath quiet that Marin knew from somewhere he didn't like to visit. The queen sat beside her, bronze gold armor cracked at the shoulder plate, golden filigree neck piece catching the faint light from the stars, platinum braids loose at the edges, her double iris eyes, deep amber rings inside amber rings, hadn't lifted when he entered, fixed on the child. The half-eaten meal on the tray beside her had gone cold. Marin set the crate down without a word. His hand went to his pocket. Reflex. The carved wooden bird, small, worn smooth at the wings, pressed against his palm the way it always did. He left it there. Reveille stirred. A thin, broken sound came out of her. It went through his chest the way those sounds always did, the way they still did 4 years later. He knew that sound. He had known it once, in a different room, on a different night. And he had not been able to do anything about it either. He didn't leave. She shouldn't have noticed him at all. A cargo loader standing in the doorway of a royal medical ward, like he had any right to be there. There's a child in this story who hasn't slept in 6 nights, and a man who understands exactly what that kind of quiet means. If that already has you feeling something, subscribe. There are more stories where this one comes from. He should have gone. He knew that. And the medical equipment hummed its soft, useless hum, and Reveille lay half awake, eyes moving under half-closed lids, unable to find the place where sleep lived. The queen's hand rested on the girl's forehead, still, patient the way someone sits when they have run out of things to try. Marin reached into his pocket without deciding to. The figurine came out. He turned it over in his rough hands. The carved bird, wings spread, edges worn down to silk by 4 years of handling. He hadn't shown it to anyone. He hadn't meant to show it now. He started humming, low, deep in his chest, his mother's song, then his own, then the version he'd sung to a small bed in a room he didn't go into anymore. The sound filled the ward before he realized he was making it. Reveille's restless movement stopped. Her double iris eyes opened, both rings focusing, sharpening. She looked at him the way a child looks at something that surprises them into stillness. Or a first real focus she'd managed in days, probably. Her tiny hand lifted toward him and closed around his cargo manifest, which had fallen from his vest pocket. She pulled the crumpled paper to her chest and held it like it was exactly what she'd been waiting for. Marin didn't take it back. The queen's head turned, slowly, like something ancient deciding whether to wake. The melody he was carrying had been meant for someone else. He hadn't planned to give it to anyone again. But here it was, already out of him, already in the room, already doing what it did. He started singing properly. Words this time, the full lullaby. His mother's version, the one with the verse about the bird that flies home before the dark comes down. His voice cracked on the second line of it. He'd known it would. He kept going anyway. Reveille's eyes drifted shut. Her grip on the cargo manifest loosened, but didn't release. The queen had gone very still. Not the stillness of patience. Something else. Her double iris eyes had shifted, the outer rings widening slightly from the inner, and her hands on the bedrail were no longer steady. The cracked shoulder plate of her armor caught the light from the viewport stars as her breathing changed. She was hearing a lullaby. The first one, the only one, her species had not heard in 300 years. The Corveshi had classified them as evolutionary weakness before she was born. Before her mother was born, before anyone now living had ever heard one sung. Emotional dependency, unfit. And here was a cargo loader with a voice that broke in the middle of it, filling her child's medical ward with something her entire civilization had decided they did not need. Reveille slept. For the first time in 6 nights, the child slept. The queen stood. Stop! Her voice came out flat, train flat, the way something is trained when the original impulse was not flat at all. He stopped. Reveille stirred but held sleep. What you are doing is... She didn't finish it. Who taught you that? My mother. Mothers don't... She stopped again. In her world, they didn't. That was the whole of it. Marin reached into his pocket. He took the figurine out and set it on the pillow beside Reveille's hand. Gently, the way you set down something that cost you. She can hold it, helps with sleep. He turned toward the service door. She told him to stop. Her hands were trembling. When every part of her biology was begging him not to go. She said, stop anyway. You're going to want to see what happens next. Subscribe so you don't miss part 2. It goes somewhere that earned it. The cargo bay was cold in a way the medical ward wasn't. Marin loaded crates by feel more than sight, the way he always did on the late cycle. His hands knew the work. His mind had gone somewhere else entirely. He reached into his pocket. Reflex. 4 years of it, worn into muscle. His fingers closed around nothing. The pocket was the same depth it had always been. His hand came out heavier than it went in. The queen found him there. He heard the sound of her armor before he saw her, the soft crack of bronze gold plate settling as she stopped in the doorway. Royal armor in a cargo bay. She stood like she'd meant to arrive exactly here, which meant she'd had to decide to. The child slept 9 hours. Marin nodded, kept his hands moving. She is holding an object. He set the crate down. Figurine. It's a bird. The queen stepped inside. 1 step, no more. Her double iris eyes moved across the stacked cargo without seeing it. I want you to come back tonight. I'm a cargo loader. That's a royal medical ward. I am the queen. A pause, clean and deliberate. I decide who enters. Another pause. Shorter, quieter, shaped differently than the first. I am asking. Those 2 words cost her something visible. He could see it in the way her jaw held. Till he reached into his pocket again. Empty. The bird was with Reveille. He thought about that for a moment. The figurine sitting on a pillow in a room he wasn't in, doing what it had always done, just for someone else now. She stopped correcting herself when she thought his name. That had happened somewhere between the cargo manifest and the door. She just hadn't marked the moment. Same time, he said. She nodded, turned to go. At the door, she stopped without turning back. The sound you made, the lullaby. She said the word carefully. The way you say something in a language you're not sure is yours. Can it be taught? He looked at her back, the cracked shoulder plate, still unrepaired. She hadn't fixed it. 3 days and she hadn't fixed it. You want to learn? Her double iris eyes caught the cargo bay light as she turned her head, just slightly. She should hear it from me. He didn't say anything poetic. He didn't have anything poetic. Same time, he said again. which was the only answer he had, and it was enough. That night the ward was the same dim bioluminescent quiet, but the throne chair had been moved back. The queen stood beside the bed in her underlayer. Simple pale fabric, armor absent, platinum braids unbound for the first time and falling loose past her shoulders. She looked smaller without the structured plates. She looked like a mother. Revale was awake, weak but awake, the wooden bird held in both small hands, wings pressed against her chest. Marin hummed the melody first, slow so she could find the shape of it. The queen listened with her eyes closed, head tilted slightly, processing it the way her species processed things, he guessed, through some internal mapping he'd never understand. He hummed it again. She tried. Low, uncertain, the pitch landing just beside the note. She tried again, closer. Revale watched her with wide double iris eyes. Both rings fully open. The way they opened when something mattered. Third try. The queen's voice found it, rough at the edges, unpracticed but real. The note held, wavered, held again. The lullaby moved through her like something breaking loose from a long, tight place. The first lullaby sung in Corveshi in 300 years, in a sterile white ward with stars through the viewport, and a cargo loader standing on the other side of a sick child's bed. Revale's eyes closed. The queen kept singing. Tears moved down pale blue cheeks, quiet ones, not fought, just falling. Her voice didn't break. It stayed with the melody, rough and unbroken, and it didn't stop until the child's breathing had gone deep and even and certain. Marin didn't join. This one was hers. He had understood that before she started. His hand settled in the bed rail. A moment later, hers settled beside it. Not touching, just close, with the way two people stand when the space between them has already changed and neither has said so. The wooden bird rested on the pillow between Revale's loosened fingers. His daughter's thing. This child's comfort now. The bridge between them made of nothing but worn wood and open wings. It wasn't a choice. It had stopped being a choice somewhere around the second verse of a lullaby in a language the universe thought was dead. That bird was carved to fly. And tonight, it finally did. Honor, if this story landed somewhere in your chest, subscribe and stay. Tomorrow's story is already waiting, and it starts somewhere you won't expect. Tell me, what broke you first? When she said, "I am asking," or when she finally sang?